This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not provided as financial, legal, or any other advice. The information is not investment advice or an offer to buy or sell any securities or make any investment. The views expressed by guest speakers are their own, and any reference to third-party products, services, or information does not constitute an endorsement thereof by SNN or its affiliates. SNN expressly disclaims all liability for any individual's use of the information presented in this podcast.
My guest on the show today is Gavin Burnett, CEO of Locafy. It's a publicly traded company. The symbol is LCFY on NASDAQ. Locafy is a software as a service technology company specializing in local search engine marketing. Founded in 2009, Locafy's mission is to revolutionize the $700 billion SEO sector. SEO, also known as search engine optimization, is a phrase you've probably heard a million times, and you probably couldn't define exactly what it is. Don't worry. You're not alone. And the main reason being is that it's a sector that is evolving so quickly that it's difficult to keep up. I invited Gavin on today because since I last interviewed him back in February 2023, the company has had its own evolution in tackling this both simple and complex problem every company must figure out. How do people find out business on the internet? We discussed this and Locafy's suite of solutions, the company's business strategy, what the competitive landscape looks like, progress towards profitability, balancing growth versus focus on profitability, and their 3 to 5 year vision for the company. With that, please enjoy my conversation with Gavin Burnett, CEO of Locafy. Gavin, thank you for joining me today. How are you doing?
Thanks, Bob. Really well. Thank you, sir. And thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. It's great to have you here. Actually, I mean, we spoke, almost 2 years to the date. At this point, we put out our kind of a little short form interview back on February 15, 2023. So this will be great to kind of give folks the full picture of what's going on at Locafy, maybe how things have changed over the last 2 years and whatnot. But, before we dive deep into all things SEO, which I have a couple close friends that would, love to hear everything about SEO at this point. First question I ask everybody on here is, what would you say is that one line that best describes Locafy?
The one line that probably best describes us is that we're experts in location-based digital marketing. We can make that's probably the simplest and easiest way to describe what we do.
Very good. And Australia-based, just want to make sure everyone knows, the accent's not fake. He's from Australia. All right. Yes.
Hey, I don't have an accent. You have an accent.
That's right.
No, we operate in two markets, primarily Australia and the US or North America. So they're the two primary markets, and for very good reasons. SEO is very specific. I have a lot of Greek friends, but we cannot do SEO for Greek. The letters just don't make sense to us. So that's why we operate in those two markets. One, it's English-based. We can, and what we do is not easy. So we want to be very focused on our efforts.
I mean, Sigma, Epsilon, Omicron. I mean, come on, we can figure it out.
No, I can't. We tried.
All right. All right. Let's dig in. So, looking back at the company's history, when was Locafy officially founded, and what was the original thesis for its founding?
Well, if I go right back, it's 16 years ago. I founded it almost to the day. So it's coming up to her 16th birthday. The reason I know how old it is. It's the same age as my youngest daughter. She was born just before the company was founded. So it's been an interesting journey. We originally started out licensing software for making the websites work on mobile phones, which for a young fellow like yourself, obviously it just works on mobile phones, but back in the day, they didn't. So I had some technology that was able to mass produce websites for mobile phones, and it was quite the thing. But we could see that was not going to be an effort for everything. So we moved into building responsive websites and then websites that would work on all sort of devices. And fast forward to the future, we found that these pages that we built were pretty good. They were fast and they ranked really well. But then we were missing a couple of pieces. So we acquired a business called Jimmy Kelly Digital. He's probably one of the top 3 SEOs in the world. And applying his knowledge, expertise, techniques, and technology to our pages, it's like a match made in heaven. These pages just rank really well for whatever location, whatever business people are doing. These pages will get will make our customers prominent. So that's long answer to short question, but hopefully that makes sense.
Absolutely. So, I mean, like I said, we did that first interview back in 2020. Well, all right. Before we get to like what's changed company wise, what is the actual service that today Locafy sells, and who is your primary customers?
Yeah. So basically, the primary, and you might edit this bit out, but we're actually got an announcement coming out in a couple of days on the product or service that we take to market in 25. So I'll come back and answer your question now. We've got what we believe is the most comprehensive local SEO product on the market today, and basically there are 4 components to it, and it covers every type of search intent that consumers have. It starts off with listings. Now, listings are important. That's a business listing, which is published on directory, search engine, voice assistants, and things like that. That's a commodity, but it is a really important foundational piece because it builds trust with the search engines. It then knows who you are. The second thing we do is we deploy landing pages that are location and keyword specific. So what do you want to rank for? Where do you want to rank? These web pages look like the customer's brand. We do not need to touch the customer's website. And they provide a complementary digital asset to whatever else they've got out there. The third thing we do then is optimize their GBP. And again, this is something that people might think is simple, but it's not. There are certain things you need to do to get your Google business profile up into the top 3. And it's super critical to do that because that's where 44% of all local traffic comes from. If you're not in the top 3, you're not in the hunt. So that's the core package that we offer a local business. Is we have the listings, the landing pages, and the local pack. But there's another type of search that people do, and that's informational and navigational. That means they're really trying to find out, information about a business, and they would probably type in a search query as like a question. And this is where we have our article solution. So we use the data that we already have from the client, from the listings, and we can produce an article using AI, which we fully humanize and then publish. And that's really critical that happens because Google's recently smashed websites that have been detected with AI. We've seen it; it's a bloodbath. So we are very, very particular in our technology as to how we humanize that and make it so that it will pass all of the AI tests. So that gives you just 3 elements in the core package, and then you've got the module, which is the articles, and then it covers off the transactional search that people do, which is your GBP, your commercial search, which is your landing pages, and then the information and navigational is related to the articles. So people in the SEO will know what all that means, but we're covering all bases.
Absolutely. So real quick, just to hit on the AI thing, because I was definitely going to ask you about that. And you what does it mean to humanize the articles that you create for them? Not trying to get too much into your secret sauce here, but I'm
no, it's a great question. I think AI is a significant threat to current search engines or to people that do SEO. To humanize it, you're basically using artificial intelligence to convert an artificially intelligent written article into something which appears more human. And it's no more complicated than that. The only other alternative is to write it yourself. What we found over the last, the update was called Spam Brain, right? That's what it was. It was released on December 26. The previous one was on June 24. And we follow every core update to see what's actually going on. And boy, we've seen some big sites and big publishers get annihilated. Companies that you would think are writing, that look like legitimate content, when you dig into it, it's not. And it's not like you go from 100 to 50 or 100 to 80. You go from 100 to nothing. You'd lose everything. It just takes the whole site down. So yeah, that's one word of advice, I guess, to anyone looking to publish is don't do it unless you passes all the tests.
Absolutely. So another question that I have regarding just SEO industry in general, and the competitive, just really also looking at the competitive landscape. I mean, it is relatively commoditized, right? Everyone has their own secret sauce, and you kind of package, your specialty together with this one, that, But I know from one experience, because like one of my closest best friends is in SEO, and that's what he does for his business as a solo guy. And the number one thing that he always runs into when it comes to new clients is that SEO is always the first thing.
that, it gets, you get a new CMO in, CMO's like, I know how to do all this. We don't need to pay the SEO guy, or I know my SEO guy is better, and all that kind of stuff. And that's tough. So, I mean, how do you handle some of the, I guess, the changeover when new CMOs come in, the perception that SEO is sometimes the first thing that gets dropped amongst marketing teams, or they switch over to the one that they're comfortable with? Love to hear your thoughts there.
Yeah, well, it's one of the reasons why we moved away from doing too much work on customer sites, because the internal SEO is the kryptonite to any service provider's business, because they do think they know better. In some cases, they do. We're not saying these guys are obviously not stupid, but they've got their own ideas. And unfortunately, what happens then, if you're doing too much work on people's site, and your friend will attest to this, if it works, they take the credit. If it doesn't, they blame the provider. So that's one of the big sort of lessons we learned. In 2023, we started to, and I know we touched on this earlier, we started to do a lot of work on customer sites, and it's time consuming, it's expensive, and often some of these sites are beyond repair, that are very difficult to fix. And so we made the commercial decision to go, you know what, that doesn't work for us. We're going to only publish on properties that we either own or that we control entirely. That's to answer your question. That's what we've done.
So when we chatted back in February 2023, that was the original model, and then you made the pivot later that year.
Yeah, that's right. So it's almost back to the future. The opportunity came up with a number of resellers that said, look, we've got clients that want SEO, but they don't want pages, they don't want this, they want their own site to be prominent, and we have the expertise to do that. And we went down that path and had some success, and some failures as well. There's some, it's a very challenging thing to work on a site that you haven't built or you're trying to fix. Doesn't always work. But with our pages, we have complete control over them. And if there are any algorithm changes, we can fix it, we can change it, we can modify it. We don't allow the clients to get in and change stuff, because that's the biggest thing that will stuff up your site, is someone going and constantly tinkering with it. So yeah, that's the big lesson, I guess, Bob, from 2023. And we've automated our processes, so we've really trimmed our staff levels down. We can produce these pages and at great scale, which we did a recent announcement on with a real estate group. And that's been the big shift in the business.
Absolutely. I mean, just want to clarify the new model real quick, and forgive me. I apologize. There's probably some people who are listening who are like, Bob, you're a moron, but forgive me.
Yeah,
forgive me. So let's clarify the new business model. So instead of obviously working customer to customer and providing these services, it's now you're working with one kind of big reseller or big wholesaler, and then they operate or help out with managing a bunch of sites, and you provide all the SEO tools so that their pages can rank higher above maybe some of their competitive, using real estate with Fathom. Like,
yep.
Instead of whoever Fathom's competitors are, their realtors, their pages rank higher than theirs. Is that basically
that's what we've been able to do so far? Yeah, okay. We've demonstrated being able to do that. So yeah, the go-to-market, we had a reseller model, and that's where you're dealing with agencies, and then the agency sell to the end client. What we found there typically was that, not every case, we've got some fantastic resellers. We also have others that just kind of used and abused us, where they would bundle us in as part of a package, probably not even tell the client they're doing it, and then cut it off after 6 months and not pay. So we go, that kind of sucks. We're not going to keep doing that. So we announced earlier this year, I think it was earlier this year, that our model is more like a Google style model. So if you want to be an agency that partners with us, we'll engage directly with the client. We'll contract with the client, collect the money, and we'll pay a rebate back to the agency. So that's one big shift in the model, and that's already starting to pay dividends for us early in 2025. To your point about the bigger groups like a Fathom, now they would be like genuine resellers where they've got a big enough base. We partner with them and help them get all of their agents, or as many as possible, utilizing technology, which is going to not only drive the agent's business, but drive the parent business of that company, increasing their overall visibility, which should increase the number of inquiries, which should increase the number of listings, which should increase their revenue. So That's where we would only deal with a reseller when they're of a decent size that they can take it to market. Otherwise, we'll deal direct with the customer, either through our own marketing efforts or through agencies that have a partnership with us.
Absolutely. So one quick question, just if I may ask, and you put your your expert SEO hat on, let's say I was starting a website tomorrow, and I wanted to rank higher. In 2025, what would you say are some of the best practices to actually do so? Because it's changing so much, and I know there was big changes with the Google algorithm over the last couple of years, and with e-commerce websites being affected, and you can't just do certain things anymore. So how do you even win if you wanted to create a blog that or something that you're like, all right, I want to make passive income and start this website, blah blah. All right, I'm going on. How do you win now?
Very, very challenging to do that. So what we know, or our research tells us, is that the most important thing is the site structure. Now, the next statement's going to absolutely horrify a lot of SEOs and marketing agencies, but the main content on the website is not a ranking factor at all. It's the site structure, your URL, your titles, your anchor text. That's what Google's looking at. And when you think about it, it's only got a split second to trawl the internet for content. So it has to make an educated decision on what's on that particular website. But where content is really important is for consumer engagement and conversion. So you actually do need both, but not for the reasons that people think. So yeah, without the right structure, you're not going to get anywhere at all. So that's what we bring to the table. You could deploy one of our pages and think of it as just like having a framework that's got everything in it that you need to rank. You just need to put the keywords and the locations in it. We lock that down so you can't break it. And then you can put whatever content you want on the page, and it will not impact the actual ranking performance of that. So that's probably the best way I can answer it. There's linking strategies take a lot of time. They're not as effective. And even Google is saying it's not a top ranking factor anymore. There are certain link things, so it's not a complete poo-poo on link strategies. Some things do work, and there are some things that are important. I'm not going to go through those because that's part of our secret sauce. But first and foremost is site structure. Without that, you're not going to get anywhere.
How do you answer some CMOs or marketing execs that come to you and be like, well, all right, I hear you on SEO, and obviously there is, a need and important for it, but our focus is social media, so we'll come back to you on SEO, or we'll want to do a combo thing. How do you answer them?
Well, I think in some cases that's totally legitimate. I mean, it depends on the market, it depends on what consumers are going after. There are some businesses where Instagram is absolutely where you want to be, and organic search is irrelevant. So it is. We just need to listen to the client to understand what audience they're trying to reach, and in some cases we're not the right fit. They are better off doing social media or doing Instagram or things like that, or a combination. It really depends on the business. So we'd rather walk away from a bit of business if we don't think we can actually assist than take the business, because they're going to leave anyway. We better be upfront with them. So yeah, but I think it's just being honest with the client, saying you are doing the right thing. Don't change what you're doing, and we'll go and talk to somebody else.
For sure. Again, going back to the idea that SEO is commoditized, and I don't mean to harp on that point, but I really want to differentiate you guys and understand how Locafy is truly differentiated from the other SEO firms out there. And I get it. You're probably going to say the product set and solution, but like, what is that secret sauce that people be, all right, I'd rather go with Locafy than this firm out of Scandinavia or something.
Well, there wouldn't be.
By the way, that was a terrible joke, because I know I know some people that are like, all right, I'll just go to Eastern Europe. We're fine. We're good.
Yeah, and they do, they do. Well, what sets us apart is, one, we're heavily research and testing based. So when we provide recommendations, it's not guessing; it's actually knowledge from testing and results. And so that's number one. That research and testing is then deployed into the pages that we produce. So like I said, it's like a framework. There's no one else that we know that has like a platform where you can just put your content in and tell us what you want to rank for, and it'll do what it says on the tin. And then thirdly, we have off-page SEO technology that accelerates the ranking of these pages. And that's where I do sort of not go too much further and say what we do, but no one else has got that. And honestly, we've had pages rank in 7 days sometimes, through a combination of proper structure and then a little bit of acceleration.
I mean, do you have any patents protecting that process or no?
No, there's no patents protecting it. But what we do is we've read the patents and understand how they work. We haven't reverse engineered anything. We've just done a lot of research and reading and understanding and testing, and that's enabled us to build what we've built to allow our pages to get that unfair advantage over any other pages that are published. And we can say that with confidence from having published tens of thousands of these.
For sure. This is going to be an odd question, but I have to ask. I mean, what's stopping, let's say someone's like, oh, I'm burnt out from working, under the corporate umbrella at Locafy. What's stopping them from, now having been under the umbrella, they know the secret sauce processes. What's stopping them from saying, you know what, I'm going to go out on my own and do this better myself?
Well, there's legal implications of that.
Sure, of course. Like I said, an out there question. I don't.
Yeah, I think the best thing to do is to make sure that the team that we have is very happy being a part of the company, has equity positions in the business, that everyone's incentivized to make it a success. So that's probably the best way. You can never stop people from doing what they want to do, like leaving or whatever. But it's illegal apparently to hunt them down and kill them. That would be bad for business. And I'm only kidding. That's not something we would do. But no, that's probably the best way. It's just incentivize, and so that we all win from when the company is super successful.
100%. Look, like I said, it was an out there question. I thought whatever. One other question I want to ask too on the on one of the offerings on the optimizing the Google business profile. The obvious goal is you want to try and help some of these firms get into the top 3 on search. What if you're working with multiple companies in the same industry? Let's say you have 4 clients in the same industry, and they're like, all right, what are you going to do? Like, you're going to switch them up a little bit. So how do you handle that situation? Well,
that's a really good question. We obviously don't have control over where they end up. That's totally in Google or the search engine's remit. I have been asked this question a lot. It is difficult to answer, but if we ever have 4 or 5 clients in the same category in the same location, we're doing really well. But that hasn't happened yet. So the likelihood of having 4 plumbers in somewhere in Ohio or Pennsylvania in the same physical location would be very, very, very low. It's not like we don't have like a Yellow Pages model where we're trying to go after every business and get their listings. We're working with partners and with resellers that have got their own client base. So it'd be interesting if it did happen. We've had instances where we've had up to 6 positions on page 1 for the same client, so we know we can do it. But yeah, that'd be a great problem to have. But I don't see it happening anytime soon.
For sure. So next question then has to do with scalability of Locafy and where how big and how fast you can really grow this thing. I mean, it's easy to say the total addressable market is multiple billions and all that. Yeah. Like it's okay. We said that. All right, good. We're done there. But what's the key focus for Locafy to really scale the business to just further and further every quarter or every year?
Yeah, another really good question. We've put out to the market exactly how we plan to do that. So last year was about consolidation and automation, basically automating as many of our processes as we possibly can. So another part of our business is listings. It's quite a sizable bit of our business at the moment. And what I mean by that is we have a lot of citation management companies that publish business listing content on digital assets that we own, and those assets are like directories. So we get paid to publish business listing content. If we go back to what the localizer product is that I outlined a bit earlier, it starts with the listing. So we can, by the end of this year, the intention is that we can take that listing data, push that into the landing page production, almost fully automate that, so that And to give you an idea of the sort of size and scale of that listing database we have, it's around 24 million businesses. So we deal with companies from everything from Yext and Uber and SignUp and these type of businesses that publish content on our directories. Our intention would be to go and talk to them and say, hey, you're already connected by API. Would you like to add landing page solution that is the best location digital marketing solution that we've seen? And by the way, it's already built. So that's nirvana in terms of where we want to get to with that. The other two ways that we're going about scale is working with companies like Fathom that have got a single focused business, but they've got lots of either agents or brokers or whatever the case may be, and we can automate the production of our landing pages utilizing existing data they already have in their database. So companies like Fathom, they've got, and this isn't breaching any confidence, this is just stating the obvious. They've got all the real estate agent information, they've got all the listings, they've got all the neighborhoods. Now we can take that data and turn that into pages that will achieve the objective that they're trying to achieve, whatever that may be. That's how we scale. Mass production of these pages using data either from a client, a partner we engage with, or the data we already have.
Very good. All right. So my next question then, this is probably my favorite question to ask every CEO when we do these interviews here. You've like I said, don't worry, you're good. Look, you've been public now for a while. We did that interview 2 years ago. You've done a couple other interviews. You've done some conferences. You've done the whole thing. What would you say, even after folks have a meeting with you or did a little deeper dive on Locafy, what do they still get confused about when they trying to put together their thesis for the company?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Are we a publisher or are we a technology company? What exactly is the business? And that's the way to answer that is how we're aiming to address that is by having that singular focus on location-based digital marketing. That's simple. That's what we do. How do we make our money? We license out our technology on a monthly basis to either partners or resellers. So that's a roundabout way of answering that question is we're trying to remove that ambiguity or sort of potential for ambiguity about what we do and keep it simple. We've worked in a couple of other markets like national, which we can do, in e-commerce, which we can do, but the local market is massive, and we've got all the right ingredients to be successful in that space. So, does that answer the question?
Yeah, I mean, I think. Listen, you tell this is more of a that was more of a question that you've gotten from others. That I was just figured we'd address it here. I mean, sorry.
No, I was just going to say. So I think that it's a great question, and there has been some confusion, I think, and we've recognised that. And our answer to that is to simplify the business and to make it very, very clear what we do, how we do our revenue, what our go-to-market is, what our traction is, etc., etc. So I think that's now, I think that's now pretty clear. But we're always willing to listen and take advice and feedback from the market if something's not clear.
For sure. I wonder if also just the being associated with, SEO optimization, right? Or search engine optimization, where, I mean, maybe just speaking for myself, sometimes you think like, oh, that's just such a big problem to figure out, like how is this company based in Australia, MicroCap, Tim, like how are they solved? Like that's, I can imagine that's probably something too, that they're like, all right, they have the answer. All right. Okay.
Well, I think we certainly do on the local
but
space.
You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I know. We get it all the time. And one of the biggest challenges, honestly, that we've faced from the outset is there's a massive distrust of SEO. I think a lot of companies have been taken advantage of over the journey. There's a lot of people that say they do SEO that have no clue as to what they're actually doing. There are some very clever people that do know what they're doing as well, by the way. But unfortunately, there's been a lot of mudding of the waters by charlatans that have sort of just taken money from clients, not really knowing how SEO works.
Writing a couple articles.
Yeah, it's actually one of the things you can do. Like, one of the things we've seen time and time again is that SEOs will recommend you write a whole bunch of blog articles, put it on a subdomain, and then all they do is repeat titles, and they get what's called panda, duplication content, and they tank the website. We see it time and time again. The one we saw, we've warned a few clients about AI. That don't do it, or if you are, disguise it as best you can. Those sites no longer exist. So
for sure. Another question I have for you. You know, what, in your opinion, again, I'm doing my, you know, some of these are here's my question. In your opinion, what would you say are also some of the company's downside risks? You know, it sounds like 2023, 2024 was a year of consolidation, not necessarily restructuring, but kind of reimagining what the model should be, how we're going to really get after it. And now, you know, obviously there's the execution risk that's just a given with every company. Yeah. But what would you say are some of the other downside risks that folks should be aware of when thinking about Locafy?
Yeah, obviously the big one is the constantly changing landscape. That's, you know, we have to keep up with that. You know, that's one thing. We think we're across the major things that search engines are going to. You know, there's not much more they can do than structure links and content, right? Because that's what a website is. But what we've done is we've tried to align ourselves to the commercial model of these search engines, so that our pages are aligned with how they make their money. So that's one thing we've done. Doesn't mean that there's still not risk in that space. So I think that is. It's not insurmountable. It's something we have to be very, very vigilant about. We've really trimmed our costs. We're moving towards that profitability, and with some of the contracts and agreements we have in place, that's within reach once these projects are executed. So that's something that I can say, and we have put out announcements about those agreements that we've won.
Absolutely. So speaking of profitability, you know, I was going to go there. What is, Gavin, what would you say is the company's path to profitability while also still focus on some of your growth objectives?
Yeah, well, we've trimmed the sales, I guess, about as far as we can. So we've got our cost base down to a very, very manageable level. And on the revenue growth side of things, we've got a clear focus on growing our partners and executing a couple of these major contracts. With those being properly executed, that will drive us to profitability. And, you know, you can see from the announcements we put out, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out in terms of the numbers. We have a very, very low, relatively speaking, cost base now. And as we scale, the costs do not scale in a linear fashion. You know, because of the level of automation. So it's the number one focus of our board is to get to profitability as soon as possible, and that's something I'm more than willing to put out there as our objective.
Are you using some of your own tools to get the Locafy name out there, or what?
Plumber's taps, isn't it? We spend so much time with our clients driving them that you know, we've got no shortage of inquiry, but you know what? I'm going to put that down as a thing to do, Bob. That's a very good point.
Come on, man! You got to use your own sauce there. Come on now.
You would think. I'm making a note on that one.
That's good stuff. Yeah, listen, every once in a while, I come up with a decent idea. I don't know. But I actually, you've been great. You've answered all my questions. I really do appreciate it. I got one more for you to close us out here today. You know, from what you can tell us, and in your opinion, you know, where do you want to see this company in 3 to 5 years? And what would you say are some of either the catalysts or inflection points that'll get you there?
I guess we'd like to be recognized as the leading local digital marketing platform for local businesses. That's where we would like to be. And I think we've got all the right ingredients for that. We've got the listing side of things covered. We've got the landing pages or the production covered. We don't get held up by having to deal with customer websites, and we've got the GBP side of things covered. So over the next 3 to 5 years, that's where we'd like to be. Number one local digital marketing platform, and to be the standard that people use.
For sure. You know what? I lied. That's not the last question. I have another question that
That's all right.
I wish I asked a little earlier. But in terms of, going back to competitive landscape, I mean, who is the elephant in the room that, you might or be like, hey, I want to love to be them one day, or, we're coming from.
Well, in our space, I honestly, unless you can come up with a name, I can't think of anyone else that does that. There are plenty of platforms that will produce landing pages or web pages, but I've not seen any that come with like a pre-programmed structure designed to rank for what the page wants to be, known for. So I don't see anyone doing that.
I mean, is it also even thinking conversely? I mean, who would a potential acquirer be? I guess like a domain agency, someone that's looking to buy URLs and say, here, we have this, list of things you can buy now to help, boost your site as you get started here or something.
Yeah, that is another really good question. And I lied earlier as well. I said the check's in the mail for your idea. It's not in the mail. So we won all on that. So I think that's a good option. I think a domain company, there's a lot of advantages because when you think about it by the domain, you've got your themes or the design, and then the SEO structure can easily be embedded in that. That'd make a lot of sense. Publishing companies that have a very big national footprint, and publishing companies have been smashed with SEO. Some of the horrors, it's a bloodbath. So this would provide that sort of hedge or protection against their properties being hammered, and also provide an additional revenue stream for selling to their customers. So I think publishers, and then other technology companies that might have complementary solutions to what we do in relation to marketing. There are a lot of marketing platforms or digital experience platforms, but again, I don't know any of them that have an SEO angle. Certainly not anything that's SaaS based, which is what we have. So,
very cool. All right, well, Gavin, we're pretty much there. I mean, with that, where can our audience go and find more information on Locafy and follow along the story as new news comes out?
Oh, you can look up LCFY on NASDAQ. That's where we have our announcements. You can check out what's going on there. We can go to locafy.com, and that'll tell you a little bit about what we do and who we are.
Beautiful. All right, well, Gavin, thank you so much for joining me today. Really do appreciate it. Good luck. Stay safe. And guess what? I'll see you in Vegas.
You will. See you in the 22nd.
Thank you.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Bob.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not provided as financial, legal, or any other advice. The information is not investment advice or an offer to buy or sell any securities or make any investment. The views expressed by guest speakers are their own, and any reference to third-party products, services, or information does not constitute an endorsement thereof by SNN or its affiliates. SNN expressly disclaims all liability for any individual's use of the information presented in this podcast.